Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the trade report video for the week of April 16th, 2017. Hope everyone's had a great long weekend and having a great Easter Sunday as well. So the market still remains in kind of a weak fear mode. If you take a look at the Dow Jones ETF here, you can see that we've kind of broken below the 50-day moving average. We're testing this recent low right around the 204 area. And a lot of this fear, I think, is driven by the fear of North Korea and what's going to happen there. So that fear still remains at this point. So I think that could continue into next week. So just keep that in mind. The market is kind of bearish at the moment, but there's a few things that look pretty good. One of the things I've noticed is that the IBB, the biotech sector, I found some decent setups in the sector. So that one looks like it could be bouncing off the support area. We'll take a look at that. But in general, the fear in the market is there, and the VIX is spiking pretty good. So we could get some more downside next week. So just keep that in mind as long as this North Korea stuff remains on the headlines. So taking a look at the SPY, kind of a similar story. Kind of, it's continuing the stair step down. You got to put a low here, put in another low here, and now it's, testing this low. So if it breaks below, these recent lows, the 232 on the SPY, then, we could have another leg down, even further downside. So, but if this area of support holds this recent low, that could be a good sign. So we definitely, on the long side, would like to see this recent low at 232 area hold on the SPY as well as on the Dow, the recent low, which is about a month ago back here. Let's see, IWM. Also you can see here all these rallies putting in the lower highs. So if we take a longer look here, we can see where the small cap ETF sitting right at kind of a support area. So we need this area to hold right around this 134, 133 area. So, but we'll see what happens. But once again, it's all driven with this North Korea stuff, because if we shoot, I think the fear is if we shoot a bomb or something, there's going to be a big war that breaks out over there, and that would, that could really hit the market hard. So just keep that in mind. All right, so next up, let's take a look at the energy ETF XLE. So this sector looked pretty good last week. What I noticed was kind of a trend line break. See this trend line here? It since has pulled back. So we'll see here if maybe the energy sector can put in a higher low. Maybe it can kind of find some support right here on these, almost like a head and shoulder bottom. Put a low here. Maybe it's pulling back and going to find some support here. So it does look like it's finding, at least bottoming out here in the energy sector. So we'll keep an eye on that. Some of the energy names had some pretty good runs last week, but they pulled back. But we'll just, I do think the energy sector could be going higher though. But once again, Thursday they all took a pretty big dip, as well as the market. So the IBB actually looks quite interesting here. There's a key support right here. You can see was resistance back here. It found support there, pulled back here and held, and then so far it's holding this area. So we'll see if this area can hold. There's a few biotechs that look pretty interesting. We'll talk about those, but it does look like the biotech sector may be able to perk up here. We'll keep an eye on that. All right, so now let's get into the trades from last week. Last week was a pretty good week for me. It's been a while. It's been a tough market, but I had some pretty good trades last week, basically in the marijuana sector. So Canada came out and they ran these Canadian weed plays up, and then they kind of sold them off before the announcement. But it was some good patterns, and we'll talk about that. And so let's talk about the first. So ACBFF, so this is one that I had a pretty nice position in, and so this was a bull flag, which is my favorite pattern here, right here. See this tight range, right at $2, and here's the tight flag. So here was an announcement that Canada was going to introduce legislation to legalize recreational marijuana in the country. So we had this big gap up on some good volume, and so that was on this day back here, and then it just got in this tight range. Let's see if I can kind of draw this. So here's kind of this tight flag. See this gap up and tight flag, and so this is one I really liked, and the other names in the sector, APHQF and some other ones, also looked very good. And so I entered this one just below 2, and then it rallied, and I held it on the breakout of 2, some good volume coming in, and then had this really nice run where I did really well, and then it gapped up and basically crapped. So the way I traded that was I held into this day, almost closed at the end of this day because it was such a nice run, and then I was like, okay, well I think it could gap into the next day, so I'll hold it. And the next day I was like, okay, it gapped up pretty nicely to 260, and then it started to go all the way back to 250. So as soon as it hit, like, I sold some at 255, and then as soon as it started to go red on the day, or break below the 250 spot, that's when I just closed my position. And then it, you know, I put it on Twitter, but it really flushed out quick. So then intraday, I'm watching this thing, and then it pulled all the way back to 2. So 2 was the breakout spot, and intraday it had pulled all the way back to 2. So I actually dip bought it, okay, and I think I got some at around 215, and then because I knew that 2 was a key spot, so 2 was going to be a support. So ideally you could have bought it down here at 2, or close to 2 as possible, and you could have sold it intraday on a bounce, or you could have held it for a gap to the next day, which is what it did. Now I didn't actually sell my position. I actually held it on this next day, the dip buy, and then on the following day when it tried to dip on this day, I had to close it out. So I tried to swing it thinking it could go higher, but I still made some money on it, just not as much. And then on Thursday it pulled back again to 2, so I dip bought some at 204, and then I closed it out at like 215. So day trades, but I did pretty good with it. But you can see here, if you look at the chart, you know, this 250 spot was a key kind of resistance, which, you know, I thought maybe it could break it, but it didn't hold. So that was a spot that the fact that it wasn't going to hold above 250 told me to get out of the position, and so that's what I did. But you know, going forward at this point, this $2 level is kind of a key area. So if we take a look, you can see right in here. So that was the breakout spot. It's kind of an important level. So we'll see if this thing can actually, you know, maybe get, you know, consolidate and then perk back up. But so that was a good trade for me last week. That ACBFF did well with that one. Another one that I didn't trade but still had a similar pattern was this APHQF. So you could have bought this one. There's a very similar pattern here, right through this 510 area, 510 to 525, and you can see where it ran. Had a really nice run to, I think, almost 7 before it pulled back. But even if you caught some of that, you know, 2 or 3 days, or even day traded it, you should have done pretty well with it. So anyway, that's 2 of the Canadian weed plays. And they may offer some opportunities in the next week or 2 as well. So just keep. I like the sector and keep watching it. All right, next up is this AVXL. So AVXL was, and still looks like a good trade. So this is a consolidation. It's basically kind of holding above this rising 50-day, and it bounced off the 50-day. And if we kind of zoom in here, so key spot, a couple key spots. This is 6th area, which it broke. So I bought this one on the breakout through 6. I think I added it like 6. I don't know, 612 or something, somewhere in this area. I added. And it had a really nice run this day, and I thought, okay, this thing, the next spot would be like right around 630. So I tried to swing trade this thing, so I thought it was really going to go. Had some good volume. See that volume there? And sure enough, it just kind of pulled back. And so I closed it out. I think I broke even on the trade. So it's been very difficult, like I said, to swing trade, even though I'm still trying it. It's a day trader's market on the long side, and it's, you know, you're seeing that a lot. You get these 1 or 2 day moves, and then they just putter out. So the market's not conducive right now for long swing trades. So just keep that in mind. I keep trying them, but I ended up, you know, basically I would have done better if I just closed the trade out as a day trade. But I do still like this one, so I'm going to keep watching it next week if the market can turn around. It's one of the better looking biotechs. So watch that 630 spot. I think is a key level. So if it perks back up through 630, it's be a good one to watch. AVXL. Let's see, BRNA. So So DRNA was another biotech that kind of had a flag. So I put on the watch list for this day, you know, on the breakout through this 340 spot. And it, once again, had a break, and you can see where it, you know, it kind of puttered out and then faded. So you see that a lot in these, you know, in this market. You get the break and then it fails. So that's just the market we're in right now. ITI is another one that was on the watch list, and here was the pattern, the breakout through this like 560 area somewhere in here, and it actually did break, but then you can see where it kind of faded back out. So once again, you know, if you're day trading and you get these one-day spikes, you know, basically it's paying to just close your position because then they end up giving it back, or you know, so it's just the nature of the market we're in. But the market could turn around, and some of these names that are holding up well could really have some nice runs. So we just have to keep an eye on it. All right, so RARX, really like this one, guys. This is it's not a very liquid name. I think it trades on average 100,000 shares a day, but really nice basing pattern here, holding up well in this market. It closed above 22, which is kind of an important spot, and so if you look at the closing price on Friday, you can, or Thursday, I should say, you know, it broke this 22 and then it closed at 22.82. So that's actually the highest closing price in this whole basing period here. So this one, you know, here's your base. Couple key things. You notice that it's holding above this rising 50-day, which is bullish, and now it's trying to break out through this upper level here. So if I was going to trade this, and I may trade this next week because I do like it, I would use this 20 area and then say 22.50. So I would use a $2.50. That's the depth of the pattern there. So add that. So 22.50, 23, 24.50. So 25 would be a good target on this one, first target. So that's the one. If you're going to trade this one, that's what I would look at. I really like that pattern though. So LMAT is another, you know, healthcare name here. Looks like it's putting in a nice pattern, holding up well in the weak market, and this is kind of what I'm seeing. So through 25 area is a key spot, so if it can break 25, I would use maybe this recent high up here, 2660 as a target. And that's probably the depth of this pattern too. So LMAT's one to watch. MMYT, this one had a nice break. Looks like it could be going higher. So here's your, you know, approximate resistance right in this area here. So say 36.5. Yeah, so 3680. Let's say 3680. And the depth I would use is somewhere between, let's see, 34 and 32. So maybe take the average 33, add that onto the breakout spot right here, and that give you your first target. This one's breaking out. Some good volume the last couple days. Nice looking chart. You could see some continued momentum next week. CTRP, just wanted to show this was an example of a failed breakout. It had this spot here at 50 and just couldn't get through, and the pattern failed. So here was the pattern here. This 50 break, ascending triangle, and you can see where it broke down below that. So it's just an example of a failed pattern, and you know, so this could have been your risk here, this trend line, or as it failed to break 50, you could have cut your position. But I didn't trade it, but it's just one that was on the watch list that didn't work out. Momo, this one finally got the break. Had a nice spot at like 35 area, see right in there, I think. So yeah, 35, 50, somewhere in that area. And you can see how that one had a nice push on this day. You could have bought that one, and it had a couple days where it continued up and still looks pretty good. Longer term, this is a nice steady uptrend here. So trend is definitely up in this MOMO, and it's holding up pretty good in the weak market. So all right, so ECA, this is an oil name here, had a spot at 12, kind of looked like it was forming a bull flag, and still looks like it is. You know, looks like it's probably in an area of support here down around 1150, and then it's got a resistance at 12. So we'll see here, you know, if this one can get back up near 12, It looks like it's forming a bull flag. Just maybe needing more time to consolidate. So just keep an eye on that one. ECA. Still like it. All right, Sears holding. Once again, another nice bull flag breakout. Here was the breakout, the really nice push up, and then you see this tight. So the bull flag is my favorite pattern because it just works. But you know, this was just a great example of that. You had a big run up, you know, and you had 7-8 days here where it's just tight range, and then it breaks out through this resistance. So on this day here was the day to watch it on the 12 break, and sure enough, boom, you had a nice push. So whether if you day traded it or you're swinging it, it still looks like a good swing. Still looks like it's going to go higher. SHLD, and it's this thing's been beat down for a long time. So yeah, a pretty beat down chart, and probably a good value play going forward. So a great example of a bull flag breakout. All right, Zendesk. I still like this one. It's got this basing pattern. Right, got this resistance right around 20. Let's see, 28. Yeah, 28. So the big breakout, pulled back, bouncing off the 50-day. So right here, it held the 50-day, bounced off the 50-day here, and so it looks like it's ready to break out through 28. Right, I think it poked its head through there. So it's still very early breakout. And if I was going to trade this one, you know, I take the average depth. Let's say maybe 26.50 to 28. So you know, $1.50. So add that to 28 and give you a target of 29.50 first target. So that would be this recent high right here, right, the high of this candle wick. So I think I could do that. But this was a nice looking setup too for next week. CBay, another biotech, nice consolidation here, setting up a nice ascending triangle. So here's your resistance right around this 425 area, and here's your trend line, a rising trend line here. So this is definitely one to watch. I really like this one here, CBay, nice looking bio. CSII is another healthcare name, and it's just kind of putting in a tight range here below. Looks like 29 is kind of a key spot. Once again, this is another one to watch if the market perks up next week through the 29 area. I like this one, CSII. Okay, so BLD. So the home builders in the basic building material sector, they still look pretty good. This one just looks like it's consolidating still, and so right around, let's say 48 area would be a breakout. So it actually, on this day, I was watching it on this big green day, looking at, you know, maybe it was going to spike up through the breakout, but now it's pulled back, so it's still in kind of a range, and maybe it needs to catch up to the 50-day. But I don't really see anything here convincing at the moment. But this one can set up pretty quickly. So I still like the sector. Another one would be, let's see, Lennar Homes. So Lennar's got a spot at 53. Still looks like it's kind of flagging here above the rising 50-day. And then DR Horton, see DHI. So this one probably looks the best out of all of them, right around the 34 spot. But it's been consolidating for a few weeks here. But DHI is holding it very well in this market too. So if the market picks up, these could actually get going pretty good. All right, let's see, ATRC, another bio, spot right around 1950. Once again, you see the range getting pretty tight, kind of an ascending triangle pattern, and so right around this 1950 area, this one can get going. I like that one. All right, Exact Sciences, EXAS. This one right around 24 spot had a nice perk up on Thursday and then pulled back, but right around this 34 spot, it seems like it's trying to break out through that area. I like this one. I'll be keeping an eye on that one through 24 next week. ACRS. I like this one through, let's say, 30. I don't know, 3280 area. So right around, so right in this area here, 3270, 3280. It's kind of grinding higher, putting some higher lows and higher highs. And this would be, I think this would be yeah. So this one's, 3380 would be an all-time high, something like that. Another good-looking bio, ACRS. So keep an eye on that one through 3280, 33 area. All right, NYMX. This one was had a nice spot at 4, and a big break, and now it's just kind of consolidating, and so it's got this resistance up here at 450. So 450, it's tested that over the past 7 days, and it closed just below that on Thursday. So if this one can break that 4450, maybe you go up here to 5 or maybe even up here somewhere. But this one does look like it's going to go higher. So if this one can get through 450, it'd be a nice either day trade or even a possible swing. But I do like this one through 450 area. So NYMX looks good. HRTX, this one had a failed break right around 15 bucks, right? So see how this one broke through on this day and then pulled all the way back to support, and now it's coming back on. So I would keep an eye on this one through 15, and then next spot would be like 1560 area. But this HRTX, another bio, looks like it's setting up again for another move. So I'd keep an eye on this one through 15 area. SONS, basically let's see, 680 area, so, and then 680, 690. So you can see this one's tested that spot once, twice, had this pullback, tested it again, and now it's ramping back up. So I like this SONS maybe through 680, 690 area with some expanding volume. VREX, this one looks good through 34. And the next resistance would be 30, 35 area, 30, 36, 35. But it does look like it's forming another nice little bull flag right here. So the big run up and then kind of sideways. So through 34, this one would be one to watch. Right, Fate. So this one I've traded a while back on this bull flag break back here. We traded that one a couple months ago. And it looks like it's holding this area right around support at $4, and it's caught up to the 50-day. So here's the rising 50-day, and it looks like it's just kind of holding right above that. And so this one I would be on watch for Monday through say 425 area would be a watch, and then maybe it can get a push to like 450, which was the recent resistance back here when it broke. But this one looks pretty good. This Fate. I do like that one, so I'm going to be watching that one closely next week. Kite is another bio, perking up, had a nice day on Thursday, and then so it's got some resistance up here, 86 area, but it's been consolidating for a while. There was a big break, and so this is, if we can get a break through 85, somewhere up here, might be worth a trade. But in general, I'm seeing, some pretty good setups in the biotech sector, holding up pretty well. All right, so the shippers, I do think that the shipping sector is also bullish longer term, and so I think we should keep an eye on, all the shippers. This G&K had a nice breakout on this day, and then it's pulled all the way back, and so far it's holding the support area. So this one could be on watch for a continued for a bounce, basically what they call a breakout pullback. You get the breakout and you pull back to support, which now or prior resistance, which then becomes new support, and that's kind of what you're seeing here. G&K, SB, another one, Safe Bulkers. This one's had a big run up, pull back. It's tested this 260 area, pull back. So this one could be putting in a higher low here, and then ramp back up near 260. So one to watch. And once again, these shippers are pretty beaten down. If you look at you know, a longer term chart, you know, this was back in back in 2014, you know, these things were up here at 11 bucks, and it's down at $2.50. So I don't think these shippers are done. You just have to wait until they set up again. I think they're going to be setting up some new buy points in the shipping sector, and I do think longer term that the trend is up. Let's see, salt. Salt could potentially, you know, once again, pulling back to a support area right around this 840 area, so that could be a support for salt. SBLK looks like it's support here at 12. Had a nice push. Now it looks like it's finding some support here at 12. So that'd be a sector to watch too. So, but in general, the market remains weak, and we'll see what happens with this North Korea stuff. If anybody launches a missile or U.S. attacks North Korea, it could get nasty in the market. So just keep that in mind. It's very volatile right now. The VIX is high, but as we start to see excessive fear in the market, then you might want to start thinking, okay, contrarian thinking that, you know, and get long if you start to see some really excessive fear in the market. So, but anyway, we'll see what happens tomorrow, guys. Hope you guys have a good rest of your Easter Sunday, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks.